You've seen the mimic trailers containing content that has never made it inside the game, and today I will analyze the scrap content from the trailer and the content's original intention and my reasons to why I think these were taken out of the game. Without further ado, let's go right into it. Let's start with the Chapter 4 trailer. The first few seconds consisted of what appears to be a village on the ground and upside down in the sky. This clip holds a similar resemblance to the Infinity Castle in Demon Slayer, but it is unclear whether this location was inspired by the anime and why this was completely scrapped from the official chapter. The only assumption I have for this unused content is maybe this was probably really buggy, or the fact that the clip did not match up with the rest of the video's quality, so Mark decided to scrap this location. From my perspective, I was kind of glad that this location was abandoned due to the fact that the quality of this area did not match up with the other locations in Chapter 4. But what do you guys think? Do you think it's a good idea to keep this inside the game, or to completely leave this as scrapped content? Next up in line, we have the Unused Classroom for Chapter 4 Part 2, where your objective was to collect 13 butterflies to progress to Part 3. The classroom consisted of a single ceiling light, a whiteboard, and rows of chairs, while the current classroom consisted of bright posters, wrecked chairs, and desks. There was no official statement on why this was removed from the game, but the only assumption I have is that it was a bit too plain. Just picture a bunch of rooms that are exactly the same, while the new classrooms had more brighter colors, wrecked classrooms, etc. Overall, I think the newer classrooms are great compared to some seats, a ceiling light, and a whiteboard. Next up in the Chapter 4 trailer, we have Keiko standing at the top of the stairs from the spawn point inside the house of Yasu's parents, where your objective was to find your parents, only to find an unknown being hanging from the door. I couldn't really find information for removing Keiko from the stairs, but from my viewpoint, this scrap content could have been cool. You just spawn in and you head upstairs looking for your parents, only to get jumpscared unexpectedly a few seconds into the game. But at the same time, if you head upstairs with the monster's feet dangling at the door, it makes you feel uneasy of what's going on. This also sounds really good as well, so I can't decide which is better than the other, but you guys might. But I think the reason they removed it is because it is really predictable. They've seen it in the trailer and they know what to expect, and the jump scare won't really be as frightening as it should be. Another scrap content that was in the Chapter 4 trailer consisted of what appeared to be dummies or dead bodies hanging from the ceiling. I'm gonna assume Sama did this, since she is the only other creature who crawls on the ceiling and has a capability of hanging dead bodies, just like what she did with Yasu's ancestors, just before the boss battle. Anyways, I also needed to point out the red beaming light in the background. There was no clarification of why it's there and the bodies as well. I'm just gonna assume that this could have taken part just right after we encounter a whole dozens of tokitos, just because of the red light shining in the background. But I was pretty glad that this was taken away since it was released. I have a sudden feeling this could have worked with Chapter 3 since it has similar aesthetics to it, and the wall texture kind of matches up with the wall from Chapter 3 Part 1. Or the fact that it didn't match the quality of Chapter 4. It was a completely huge update after all. Chapter 4 introduced a new UI system, more improved cutscenes with better lighting. This could be shown while releasing Kusunoki from the Witch's Curse, and the noticeable difference of chase themes, which did play a factor of frightening people unexpectedly. Our next scrapped content that was also used in the Chapter 4 trailer consisted of a character holding a candle in a dark room, walking past a couple of stone statues. I have a feeling that this scrapped content was going to be used right after we unlocked the door down the basement, but instead, this was replaced by dozens of wooden mannequins. Unfortunately, there was no detail on what place these statues were taking place in and why this was taken away from the game. From my perspective, I would have not let this statue become wasted. Just replace it over the statue Shizu. You guys can't disagree with me on this, but shizu looks like the Roblox grass texture, and I'll compare it side by side if you disagree. See? Told you they look the same. It was pretty unfortunate that these statues were taken down. These statues do not have the scariest design in chapter 4, but they did have one of the best designs if you compare it to Tokito, Daku, Keiko, Kusunoki, and Sama. This statue had the quality of Book 2 Chapter 1's monsters, from my personal preference. Maybe this monster was inspired by the well-known British sci-fi television Doctor Who, the Weeping Angels. They only move when somebody isn't looking at them. I'm going to assume that these statues could have been removed because the monster wasn't based on Japanese events, or I just can't find the Japanese monster the statues were based on, or they could possibly be buggy, way too buggy to be released to the public. Our last two unused content from the chapter 4 trailer included a character walking in a cave and also Sama in a spider form inside a cave. Let's begin with the character walking in the cave. Yasu appears to be walking through a narrow cave, holding a candle in his right arm, guiding his path. I'm going to assume that this cave was revamped into the cave right after Kusunoki hands us his blessed blade. If it actually was a revamped cave, Mark and his team did a really good job on making it look more relaxed and creepy at the same time. I would be pretty thankful that Mark did a good job revamping short parts so we can enjoy the full experience of a well-made horror game. Let's move on to the clip where Sama was hanging from a narrow cave. We can see Sama frozen in motion, hanging from the ceiling when the camera zooms in. She also appears to be in the cave, judging from the texture of the stone, of course. I'm guessing this part takes right after Yasu comes out of the narrow cave. There was no telling why this was taken out and replaced with this. I mean, it does look a lot way better, with more detail, and it feels more ambient. Judging from the shot, I don't actually think there was supposed to be a boss battle. The only thing I have to guess is that we're supposed to be running away from Sama. This is how I picture the story. While the cave behind us was collapsing, after Yasu finds an exit, Sama is left under the rubble, unconscious. Then, the evil god or the eldritch god would devour her soul and say, quote unquote, "What a useless tool." Later, your parents greet you not knowing what was taking place while they were cursed. Now, let's examine the Book 2 trailer and the Mimic Book 2 final trailer. The first few seconds of the Book 2 trailer consisted of a city. Many of you might not pay attention, but what is different is that it's brighter, or daytime. In the actual chapter, it is more darker, and the only thing that is lighting your way are the buildings. I guess the only reason why this was scrapped is because it didn't look good compared to the current version, so the brighter city was removed from the game. I guess it was a good idea since the atmosphere felt calmer and also peaceful. If you want to watch more of my content, click any of these 4 videos right here. Any of them would do. But anyways, you've made it to the end of the video, and if this video does well, I will certainly make a part 2. See ya.